All right, hello delegates. Good afternoon. Your break time has now elapsed. Now we will move on to the second committee session. And with that, I will now begin the second committee session with a roll call. If your country is being called, please state whether you are present or present in voting. Delegate of Afghanistan.
The delegate of Afghanistan is present and voting.
All right, thank you, delegate. Albania.
The delegate of Albania is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate. Austria.
The delegate of Austria is present.
Thank you, Bangladesh.
The delegate of Bangladesh is present and voting. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Next is Central African Republic. Delegate of Central Africa. Going once, going twice. Delegate of Central African Republic is not present. Delegate of Chad.
The delegate of Chad is present and voting.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of China.
The delegate of China is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Colombia.
The delegate of Colombia is present. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Delegate of Denmark.
The delegate of Denmark is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Dominican Republic.
The delegate of Dominican Republic is present. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Next is delegate of Ecuador.
The delegate of Ecuador is present and voting. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Ethiopia. Delegate of Ethiopia. Going once, going twice. Delegate of Ethiopia is not present. Delegate of Germany.
The delegate of Germany is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Guinea.
The delegate of Guinea is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate of India. Delegate of India.
This delegate is present and voting.
Right, thank you, delegate. Delegate of Indonesia.
The delegate of Indonesia is present and voting.
Thank you, delegate of Iraq. Delegate of Iraq.
The delegate of Iraq is present and voting.
Thank you, delegate of Israel.
The delegate of Israel is present and voting.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Italy.
The delegate of Italy is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate of Mali.
The delegate of Mali is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Delegate of Mozambique.
The delegate of Mozambique is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate of Nepal.
The delegate of Nepal is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The chair would like to recognize the delegate of Ethiopia as present and voting. Perfect, thank you. All right, delegate of New Zealand.
Delegate is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Delegate of Niger.
The delegate of Niger is present and voting.
Thank you, delegate. Next is delegate of Nigeria.
The delegate of Nigeria is present and voting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate of Norway. Sorry, delegate, you are muted. You are not audible. Please just type in your voting stance on the chat box. Thank you. We will recognize delegate of Norway as present and voting. Delegate of Pakistan.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of Pakistan is present and voting. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate of the Philippines.
Delegate of Philippines is present and voting.
Delegate of Romania.
The delegate of Romania is present.
Thank you, delegate. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not present. Delegate of Somalia.
Somalia is present and voting.
Thank you. Delegate of South Sudan.
The delegate of South Sudan is present and voting.
Thank you. Delegate of Spain.
The delegate of Spain is present and voting.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Switzerland.
The delegate of Switzerland is present and voting.
Next is the Delegate of Thailand.
The delegate of Thailand is present and voting.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Uganda. Delegate of Uganda. Going once, going twice. The delegate of Uganda is not present. Delegate of the United Kingdom.
The delegate of the United Kingdom is present and voting.
Thank you. Delegate of the United States.
Delegate of United States is present and voting.
Last but not least, delegate of Vietnam. Delegate of Vietnam. Going once, going twice. Delegate of Vietnam is not present. Now we will look upon the threshold with 35 delegates present and voting. The procedural simple majority is set at it's supposed to be okay. So the delegate, the simple majority, since it was one, is 18, will be set at 18. So to pass a motion, you are required to have 18 votes of yes, and the 2/3 majority will be set at 24. All right, so we will move on to the general speakers list. All right, we will start with Mozambique first. Yes, Delegate of Guinea. Is this a point, or would you like to be added to the list?
I want to be the delegate of Guinea wants to be added to the general speakers list.
All right, thank you, Delegate. The chair will now open for more speakers. So if you guys would like to be added to the GSL, please raise your hand. All right, Delegate of Guinea, Delegate of India, Delegate of Denmark, Delegate of China, Italy.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Delegate. Germany, United Kingdom, Mali, Nepal, Albania.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, and that will be all for now. So the first speakers would be the delegate of Mozambique. Mozambique, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Bom dia, asubuhi, saubona. Thank you to the honorable chairs, committee, and other representative for giving me the opportunity as a representative from Mozambique to give some speech in this lovely afternoon. A heinous doings that statistically proof has taken away the wretched adolescence, which in this case known as child marriage, is so prevalent. The Republic of Mozambique, deeply conscious with the fact of being one of the highest country that has the highest rate of child marriage in the world. Adequate human resources, a significant constituent to stimulate the advancement of a country. There it comes the importance of education. Now here comes the issue. The low quality of education coupled with the large number of people who haven't received education take influence and become the root of a country's problem, one of which, absolutely right, child marriage. The Republic of Mozambique wants to make the first step of reducing the numbers of child marriage. The Republic of Mozambique wants to raise awareness among the people, citizens, both internationally and locally, because one of the main sources of the child marriage is from the people itself. The traditional or old-fashioned people way of thinking about child marriage is the best solutions to solve their problems. We need to change that. And of course, people provide them with solutions. But then again, the rest of the problems, they are the one who needs to solve it. Our work is to help and provide them tools, knowledge that would help them to get through their problems easier. So as a representative of Mozambique, we want to invite other countries to work together to achieve the best result. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Before we move on to the next speaker, the chair would like to recognize the delegate of Central African Republic in attendance. Please go back to the setup. Yes. Delegate of Central African Republic, are you present or present in voting?
Present in voting. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We will now see the threshold with 36 delegates present in voting. Therefore, the procedural threshold will be set at 19 because we are using simple majority, which is 50% plus one. All right, now we will move on to the GSL. The delegate of Austria, the floor is yours.
Dear Honorable Chairs and fellow delegates, children are future successors. They should be free and they have the right to protection, education, health, and happiness. Child marriage is taking their rights away from them. This is a problem since children are still very young and they still have a long way ahead of them. Not just that, child marriage is immoral in any ways of humanity. In the Republic of Austria, this matter is illegal in all sorts of ways. The age for marriage to be legal is when the couple is already at the age of 18, stated in Austrian Marriage Act 1939. 1. Child marriage is considered as forced marriage since children are not in the age of full consent. It is stated in the Austrian law against violence that forced marriage is an offense because it is considered as domestic violence. That is why the Federal Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Education and Women have been collecting funds to make Orient Express, a national non-governmental organization which provides counseling for girls and young women who have been affected by child or forced marriage. And since 2013, the Austrian government provided emergency accommodation in cases of immediate danger. The delegation of Austria wished to improve the system to prevent child marriage, and recently there has been a report about child marriage being practiced in minority communities. There are 3% of the children population in Austria who got married before the age of 18. I wish we could all fight this issue to the very end where we can never see or hear such horrid things like this. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Next to speak is the delegate of the Philippines.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates. In 2020, 1 in 5 girls are married under the age of 18. In these developed countries, it's 40% and 12% before 15. We believe that the people is the heart of a nation that deserves our full attention, where in our 3 pillars are to comply for the development of our country. We value the importance of education and security to furnish the need of the people and provide them equally. The future of the country and global position is determined by the execution of these pillars, which lead us to the issue. Long ago, the issue that is still happening in this time and day with child marriage. Estimated in 2017, 726,000 early marriages are happening in Philippines, which is a result and cause of poverty, which most cases happen by family traditions or religions that bred the consequences of lack of education, health deformity, domestic violence, and bad development. We expect to collaborate and cooperate with other delegates to find a well-built and secure solution without division. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. How would you like to yield your time?
The delegate will yield time to chair.
All right, thank you. Next to speak is the delegate of New Zealand. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry, Chair. I did not raise my hand in the previous
Yes, Delegate, we are continuing the GSL from the previous list. So the GSL is actually a continuous list. It will always be continued from the previous list.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Honorable Chairman and distinguished delegates, thank you for the floor. In the previous committee sessions, we have discussed the shared perspectives on various topics, such as the root cause of child marriage in each country and the impact of child marriage. After understanding the stance of all member states, New Zealand is more than happy to discuss possible solutions in further detail. In New Zealand ourselves, we have passed several legislations to stop child marriage, such as the Minors Court of Consent Legislation Act in 2018, which requires 16 to 17-year-olds who want to enter a legally recognized de facto relationship to first obtain the approval of a family court judge. The goal of this is to prevent child marriage because the children or teenagers in this case who do want to marry out of love or any other reason have to make sure that they can first make the family court judge aware that they are not being coerced or forced in any way. However, the legal age of marriage in New Zealand is still 18, and we also propose to end child marriage through education and, of course, financial aid for the poor. That is all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Delegate. How would you like to yield your time?
I would like to yield my time to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Ginny. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Guinea disagrees with child marriages as it has been illegal according to the Guinean Children's Code. 51% of young women get married before the age of 18 in Guinea. That's 51% of young girls losing their childhoods. Guinea is the 8th highest ranked country in the world with child marriage, and the rates are so high that 11.7% of these girls get married at 15, 11.2% get married after they turn 18. They affect these children's lives in many mostly negative ways, such as low education, poverty, child labor, dropouts, and many more. Therefore, Guinea disagrees with the idea of having kids being forced to throw away their childhood and/or teenhood by getting married. There are many ways that this can be resolved, except the cooperative citizenship is required. And right now, that is not the case. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of India. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable delegates of UNICEF, we are here in this council to discuss on how to help the children protect themselves from child marriage, and it's our duty to give all children equal rights according to UNICEF's mandate. But this council has been drifting from the main topic. We are simply going in circles on and on. All delegates already understand why child marriage occurs and the consequences previous from this council. But we have barely addressed and ignored definitions and parameters and our agenda, which is needed for future documents that contain our solutions. A resolution without discussing the basics and the questions to be solved is impossible. This is why this delegate believes we must focus on definitions and parameters and our 4 agendas and put other aspects to be discussed later. In 2005, India enforced the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, which changed the age requirement for marriage to 14 to 18 for girls and 18 to 12 for boys. In 10 years, India was able to decrease the rates of child marriage from 47% to 27%. This is a major difference. This is a prime example that shows that adequate laws does definitely help prevent child marriage, and is very important, but more awareness is very needed. This is not enough to completely eradicate child marriage, and we must not let any child be forced to marriage. This is why we must further discuss on this topic, as the law is what gives children the right to say no to child marriage. Therefore, we must further discuss on this topic. This delegate is eager to listen to the opinions of other delegates on this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. How would you like to yield your time?
This delegate would like to yield their time to questions and answers.
All right. Any delegates who has some questions for the delegate of India? Please raise your hand. No one? Going once? All right, delegate of Somalia.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of Somalia would like to ask India themselves what they think the definition and parameters of child marriage, as we think that it's already obvious that it is minimum age of 18.
Well, you have to understand, the delegate has to understand that every country has different laws and it must be clearly established in order to make a resolution. If not, it cannot be made. Thank you.
All right, since we only have six seconds, so the remaining time will be automatically go back to the chair. Thank you, delegate. The next to speak is the delegate of Denmark. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, respected chairs and fellow member states from the United Nations. There's a time for every phase and a time for child to learn alphabets, a time for them to experience childhood, and a time for them to develop physically as well as mentally. In certain times, fast-forwarding this process does not apply. Regardless of our gender, race, and religion, our existence is of considerable and meaningful purpose, not directly awaiting for marriage in due time. In this belief, juvenile marriage and sexual conduct is a thriving concern, especially now as it is harder for parents to pay school fees and their children are at risk of being married off for the reason of releasing the family's financial burden, especially in this pandemic. Another purpose is to follow as well as pass down certain traditions that include marrying at an early age. From a Danish perspective, settling this global issue has been one of our top focuses and has divided the chosen strategies into two parts, individual and social segment. Individual segment prioritizes education, freedom of choice, and self-image development in minors or children under 18 years of age, to give them the power to make responsible choices and become thriving responsible adults in the future. Social segment involves interacting with thriving communities with one collective goal, that is, the end of child marriage starts when we say no, when the parent of the child says no, when the child says no, and when the matchmaker says no. Thank you for giving me the time, chairs. I am interested in hearing other countries and member states' opinions. I would like to yield my time to the chairs.
Thank you, delegate. Next to speak is the delegate of China. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, China would like to emphasize China's stance as being against child marriage. Laws in China since the 1950s are also not in favor of child marriage. In order to tackle the issue of child marriage internationally, China believes that addressing child marriage in refugee camps and borders are also crucial. In the context of humanitarian crises, conflicts, and wars, nearly 35% of women refugees aged 20 until 24 were married before reaching 18 years old. Reports also have indicated that girls with less education are more vulnerable to becoming child brides. In refugee camps, access to meaningful education still has its challenges. As refugees, children are often exposed to child marriage and human trafficking. And in order to tackle such conflicts, China believes that child marriage could be combated with encouragement on domestic law implementation regarding child marriage and statuable marriageable age. And this will be supported by the bodies, commissions, or persons specialized in combating child marriage and rights violation, and will further be supported by the creation of DECM, or Data and Evidence for Tackling Child Marriage. The delegate of China also believes that launching the CFOTS, or Children and Family Food Training, Education, and Support, will also help in combating child marriage across the global, and also encourage school establishment with co-educational systems in rural areas and LEDCEs. Thank you, Chair. The delegate of China would like to yield the time to the delegate of Italy.
All right, delegate of Italy, do you accept?
Yes, chairs.
All right, delegate of Italy, your 2 minutes and 90 seconds starts now.
Many say that education is the key to success. Dear Board of Days and delegates, in the previous committee session, most delegates talked about their country stance, the current situation in each country, as well as some ways to tackle some of the matters. For example, by raising the awareness of child marriage. Delegate of Italy believes that every country has the same stance, which is to reduce the cases of child marriage in each country. Italy believes that one way to solve this problem is to solve the root cause of the problem. This is what us delegates need to talk about in further discussions, which is to find the most effective and efficient solution in order to tackle this problem. While finding the best solution, us delegates need to remember the mandate of UNICEF itself in order to overcome the problem and for the solution to work adequately. Those things should be taken into consideration on the making of the solution so that the solution could answer the karmas as well. Paying attention to problems in past actions are also needed in order to take effective solutions so that mistakes made on past solutions can be fixed and the solutions are established in the best possible way. With this in mind, the delegate of Italy is looking forward to work with you delegates in order to tackle this problem. Thank you, Chair and delegates.
All right, thank you, delegates. How would you like to yield your time?
To the delegate of Germany.
All right. All right, delegate of Germany. You now have the floor for 3 minutes, 5 seconds.
Okay. Honorable Chairman and distinguished delegates, thank you for the floor. Before I continue my speech, Germany understands India's concern on our progress, but UNICEF has stated and declared the definition and parameters of child marriage, specifically being any marriage between a child under 18 and an adult or another child. Therefore, Germany feels that we don't have to waste any more time discussing the parameters and definition of child marriage. In the previous committee session, we have discussed several topics such as the root cause of child marriage in each country. This allowed us to understand where each country stands on the motion is and how to work with that. Germany itself is strongly against child marriage as it's not only a violation of human rights, but it's also a violation of children's rights. This makes this situation even more concerning, alarming, and horrendous. We also discussed the impact of child marriage, and moving forward, the delegate of Germany is looking forward to talking about solutions in further details with fellow member states. Germany itself has strongly acted against child marriage by creating an act called the Act to Combat Child, where in this act, both parties of a marriage must be at a minimum age of 18, and the government has the right to abolish marriages conducted with foreign laws if one party or both parties was under 18 at the time of the marriage. Germany would further like to propose solving child marriage with proper education, government funding, working alongside NGOs, and many more. Besides that, Germany has teamed up with some NGOs and government organizations to help give education to girls that don't have the means and resources without aid, and feels that other member states could also do the same solution. Thank you, and I yield my time to the next delegate.
All right. Unfortunately, we will not be accepting any yield to another delegates because we will now move on to points or motions. All right. Thank you. For those of you who would like to, no, wait, we haven't opened the debate. All right. Now the chairs are only looking forward to one motion and one motion only. That is to open the debate. Yes, delegate of Albania.
The delegate would like to open the debate.
Yes, thank you, delegate. This motion passes under the chair's discretion. Now, the chair is open for any points or motions. If you have any points or motions, please raise your hand. All right, delegate of the United Kingdom.
This delegate would like to propose a motion. Motion of an open unmoderated caucus.
Unmoderated caucus?
Unmoderated caucus.
For how many minutes, delegate?
For 15 minutes.
All right, that is in order. Thank you, delegate of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair.
Now, the chair will recognize Albania. Is that a legacy hand, or do you want to propose a motion?
The delegate would like to propose a motion.
All right, go ahead, delegate.
This delegate would like to raise a moderate caucus regarding evaluation on UNICEF's past actions for 20 minutes total time with 1 minute of each speaking time. Is that in order, Chair?
Yes, that is in order. 20 to 1.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, delegate. Now the chair will recognize the delegate of Afghanistan.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of Afghanistan would like to propose a moderated caucus for 15 minutes total time with 1.5 minutes speaking time to discuss the measures to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Measures to deal with COVID-19 pandemic. All right, thank you, delegate. That is in order. The chair will only recognize this being motion for now. Now we will vote upon the most disruptive motion, that is the unmoderated caucus by the delegate, proposed by the delegate of the United Kingdom for 50 minutes. For those of you in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Please remember that now the procedural voting is set at 19. I will give you guys a few seconds to cast your votes. Please don't lower your hand first. 5, 4. All right, we have 20 votes of yes. Therefore, this motion passes. Your 15 minutes unmoderated caucus starts now. Can the committee open the breakout rooms? Yes, it is open. Go ahead, delegate. All right, welcome back, delegate. We will wait for a few seconds for those who hasn't been. I think everyone's here. Yes, okay. All right, we will now move on to another points or motions. If you have any points or motions, please raise your hand. All right, delegate of the United States.
Delegate of United States would like to raise a moderated caucus for 15 to 1.5 with the topic of approaching customary or religious laws initiatives.
All right, that is in order. Approaching customary or religion. Can you please repeat the motion, delegate?
Approaching customary or religious laws initiatives.
Religious laws initiative. All right, thank you, delegate.
Thank you, Chair.
Next is delegate of China.
The delegate of China would like to raise a moderated caucus for 15 minutes with 1.5 minutes speaking time on the topic of child awareness in rural areas. Is that in order, Chair?
That is in order. Child awareness in rural areas. Thank you, delegate. Next, I will give the floor to delegate of Albania.
This delegate would like to raise a moderated caucus for 20 minutes total time with 1 minute of each speaking time regarding evaluation on UNICEF's past actions to tackle child marriage. Is that in order, Chair?
Yes, that is in order.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, hold on, delegate. Can you please repeat that motion?
Evaluation on UNICEF's past actions to tackle child marriage.
Oh, all right. Since you have proposed this motion, can you please reword that or rephrase that so that it is not identical to the previous one?
UNICEF's past, the impacts of UNICEF's past actions for each member state. Is that in order, Chair?
Yes, that is in order. Impacts of UNICEF past actions on each member states or each country. Yes. Thank you, delegate. Now we will move on to vote upon the most disruptive motion. Please lower your hands first. All right, thank you. We will now vote upon the most disruptive one proposed by the delegate of Albania for 20 to 1 regarding impacts of UNICEF past actions on each country. For those of you who are in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. I will give you guys a few seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, with only 11 votes in favor. This motion unfortunately fails. Next, we will vote upon the next motion proposed by the delegate of the United States for 15 to 1.5 regarding approaching customary or religious laws initiatives. For those of you who are in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Please remember that to pass a motion, we need 19 votes of yeses. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, with only 12 votes of yeses, unfortunately, this motion fails. Now we will put upon the last motion proposed by the delegate of China for 15 to 1.5. Please lower your hands first and wait for the mark. All right. For those of you in favor of this motion proposed by the delegate of China, please raise your hand. All right, we have reached 22 votes of yeses. Therefore, this motion passes. The delegate of China, would you like to speak first or last?
Before that, the delegate of China would like to correct the title of the moderated caucus as Child Marriage Awareness in Rural Areas. Thank you, Chair.
All right, that is in order. Thank you. Child marriage awareness in rural areas.
Yes, and the delegate of China would like to go last. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, delegate. That is in order. We have 9 more slots before the delegate of China. For those of you who would like to speak upon this motion, please raise your hand. I will recognize the delegate of Israel. And then the delegate of Pakistan.
Sorry, Chair, it was from before.
Oh, all right. The delegate of Pakistan has, removed. All right. Delegate of, sorry, which delegate is this?
This is the delegate of Israel.
Oh, all right. So the delegate of Israel retracts, and then we have the delegate of Pakistan for the first speaker. And then the delegate of India.
Sorry, Chair, this delegate retracts.
Which delegate is this?
Delegate of Pakistan.
All right. Okay. So the first speaker is the delegate of India. And then we have the delegate of Denmark. And South Sudan. Thailand. Albania. USA. Italy. United Kingdom. Indonesia, and last but not least will be China as the proposer. All right, first up is the delegate of India. The floor is yours. Delegate of India. What is the personal privilege, delegate? Delegate of India? Oh, okay. We will move the delegate of India to the second speaker, and then the first speaker will be Denmark. The delegate of Denmark, the floor is yours.
Thank you, chairs and fellow member states of every country for letting me speak, starting this topic in motion. As seen everywhere and all around the globe, child marriage is now an international problem, even though it's prominent in some countries such as Mali, Bangladesh, and Chad. Child marriage has been a problem solved by UNICEF, but it hasn't been topped or prioritized in rural areas. Some areas that include villages and places without technology in countries that has not developed fully. Does not have any laws that include saying that child marriage is illegal. That is why we need to raise awareness. Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, delegate, you are audible.
Okay. This is why we need to raise awareness in rural areas because it is not prioritized enough by the UNICEF community and all communities in the world, and this is where child marriage thrives the most. I would like to yield my time to the chairs.
All right, thank you, delegate. Next to speak is the delegate of India. Delegate of India, are you there? Delegate of India. All right, since the delegate of India is not here, we will move him to the second to last speaker before the delegate of China. Next to speak is the delegate of South Sudan. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. In raising child marriage awareness in rural areas, Delegate of Sudan believes that we could empower teenagers, more specifically girls, to fight against child marriage. We could reach them through social media, since social media's users are mostly girls and teenagers. And most importantly, we need to educate them. In rural areas, the lack of education, and the delegate of South Sudan believes that we could create an online seminar or talk show regarding this problem. Since online school, most people, even in rural areas, have phones or gadgets because it's mandatory now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, delegate. Next to speak is the delegate of Thailand. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. Now we would like to discuss the motion of child marriage awareness in rural areas. Now, enforcing awareness in these rural areas will be hard as you can suggest by the name of place. It will be hard due to the lack of infrastructure and the fact that Thailand as a country struggles economically to a certain extent. It is not a first world country that and thus does not have enough power to enforce its rules in some places. Now, we do prioritize the safety of our women and girls in rural areas as they play a lot in our economy in terms of in terms of earning money, and they provide a backbone to the families that live in these places. We do appreciate them, however, it will be hard. Thank you.
All right, thank you, delegate. Next to speak is the delegate of Albania. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Board of Guys and fellow delegates. Child marriage has been practiced in the last 2 decades among some communities living in extremely remote, rural, mountainous areas where a patriarchal mentality meets poverty. Child marriage is not an isolated event. It is related to other social problems that people and families face, such as economic difficulties, lack of adequate housing, and lack of access to education and health services. Awareness of the consequences of child marriage needs to be raised among policymakers, civil society, and other opinion leaders in order to decrease the practice of child marriage and needs to be addressed more strategically. Policymaking also needs to be supported by accurate sex and age disaggregated statistical data on marriages, divorces, births, and child and maternal health. Awareness of the consequences of child marriages needs to be raised as well among parents, children, and young people living within communities where child marriage is widely practiced. Given the low level of awareness on family planning and reproductive health issues among people, and other vulnerable communities, there is a need for coordinated action. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of the United States. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. So education awareness strategies in rural areas is actually one of the top agendas that we need to be discussed. We believe that in rural areas where child marriage is prone, we need more socialization on the dangers of child marriage, which we could later maybe discuss on regarding the customary or religious norms approach. And for the education awareness strategies, we think that educating the civil societies of any age and sex about the definition, illustration, and danger of child marriage by establishing an effective and captivating education platform, which the educators are, of course, voluntarily. And then we could also enhance reporting standards by partnering up with technological businesses to educate public about the consequences of child marriage and also help them to provide technology in rural areas so the children in rural areas could have the same opportunity to it. And lastly, we could enhance the role of civil society organizations or CSOs, which projected the efficiency and capability that could be incorporated to the council's decision, including but not only limited to campaigning and public awareness raising, monitoring functions, and support with group creation. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Italy. The floor is yours.
Honorable Board of Dice and fellow delegates, we've acknowledged that the practice of child marriage is pretty common in rural areas. As we have discussed in the previous committee session, this can be caused by many factors, including the lack of education and awareness, and also the children's surrounding environment. In order to help reduce child marriage cases, especially in rural areas, the Delegate of Italy proposes the solution of TEAM, which stands for Tackling Education and Awareness Matters, that collaborates with other UN bodies to help their fundings. By implementing TEAM, Italy wants to make sure that every child gets the proper education and the awareness that they deserve. Thus, Italy collaborates with other UN bodies to raise the awareness, especially in rural areas. The Delegate of Italy would like to raise the awareness of marriage amongst children by enhancing the numbers of seminars and workshops. Besides that, Italy would also like to support UNICEF and IT with GIGA program to help every school connect with the internet, considering that education is also causing child marriage, especially in rural areas. Thank you, chairs.
All right, thank you. Next to speak is the Delegate of the United Kingdom. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, fellow delegates. The UK is home to many rural areas. The rural population is actually estimated to be around 14 million people. Rural areas also tend to have a trend of being less educated and less recognized. This means that rural areas should be better educated with the negativities and information of child marriage. Furthermore to this, there's also a trend to rural areas being more religious than more widely known areas. This ties back on how we should all deal with culture and religion. Religion and culture should not be suppressed. Awareness must be raised. Awareness can take the form of educating the populations and encouraging government to strengthen laws. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is Delegate of Indonesia. The floor is yours.
People in rural areas are mostly those living in poverty. Those who are in poverty would see child marriage as a last resort to lower their economical burden. To counter this issue, we can enforce more awareness in the consequences of child marriage, from health concerns to the impact it has on a child's psyche. Because of the fact that most families in these rural areas are in poverty, we can offer economical help and even employment opportunities to families who are struggling financially. Holding campaigns to help give proper education to children in poverty would also help tremendously. And also encouraging the government to enforce laws that will help prevent child marriages and even help those who are already in child marriage relationships to get proper justice, support, and also criminalize the acts to erase legal loopholes that may enable child marriage. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of India. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. In the religion of Hindu, that makes 80% of the Indian population, it is said that all people must have the freedom of exploitation, violence, want, violation, and early death. And India would like to give all people the freedom of all these. And awareness is the key to preventing child marriage. Without awareness, it is impossible to combat child marriage, as people will not know the dangers and consequences of it. A law has no meaning without people being aware of it. Our third agenda describes the importance of awareness, and especially in rural areas. India urges all delegates to work to give all children born in rural areas, the same rights as those in urban areas. In India, with such a large amount of people, spreading awareness to each and everyone is a difficult task, especially with the fact that not all people in India have the availability to social media. Previous delegates have said the importance of education and funding, and India, as a developing country, funding is certainly needed. India believes we need to further spread daily necessities such as healthcare and education to rural areas. But no country can solve a big problem by itself. We urge all member states to further discuss about funding in more economically developed countries in the next sessions. The delegate of UK and USA has also previously mentioned the importance of dealing with religion. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Last but not least is the Delegate of China. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. According to the UNICEF, disaggregation by residence area shows that prevalence of child marriage is higher in rural areas than in urban areas. Finding from Susanes and other relevant literature studies also showed that children from a poor family who lived in rural areas had low educational background were more vulnerable to child marriage. It remains a serious challenge to raise awareness regarding the negative effects and child rights violation in child marriage in rural areas. Premarital sex is common and accepted in a lot of rural areas. There's also little clear information provided in school or at home about reproductive health and sexual activity and its consequences, leading to elevated risk of teenage pregnancies and child marriage. Meanwhile, in social contexts, families living in rural areas of Southern Asian countries often encourage their daughters to marry because husbands move into the home of their wife's family, thereby contributing to their family's income, which pushes daughters to marry earlier. Now, the awareness of child marriage in rural areas is also due to the weak enforcement of laws, because the marriage registration is also patchy and unreliable. With that being said, the delegate of China proposes on educating families, community, and religious leaders regarding child marriage with an approach that informs them the benefits of not marrying their children early and promoting gender equality by direct or oral demonstration by sending volunteers. Visual tools such as stickers, logo, t-shirts, armbands, bracelets, and banners are also more cost-effective and a simpler way to raise awareness in rural areas through sending volunteers by the UNICEF. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next, we will move on to another points or motions, and with that, the previous motion has elapsed. Are there any more points or motions? Please raise your hand. Yes, the delegate of the United States.
The delegate of the United States would like to raise a moderated caucus of 15 to 1.5 regarding the topic of approaching customary or religious laws.
All right, since the motion has been proposed before and it failed, please do reword the motion.
Can we rephrase it into customary or religious laws approachment?
Yes, that is an order.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Next is the delegate of Germany.
The delegate of Germany would like to propose a moderated caucus on the topic of education as a child marriage solution with total duration time of 20 minutes and each speaking time being 1 minute.
All right, that is an order. Thank you, Delegate. Next, I will call upon the delegate of Afghanistan.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of Afghanistan would like to propose a moderated caucus for 15 minutes total time with 1.5 minutes speaking time to discuss. to discuss the topic of methods to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sorry, Delegate, can you repeat that once more?
Methods to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Methods to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, that is in order. Thank you, Delegate. Now we'll vote upon the most disruptive motion first, proposed by the Delegate of Germany for 2021 regarding education as a solution for child marriage status. For those of you in favor, please raise your hand. Please remember that the simple majority is set at 19, and now we have 19 votes, and therefore this motion passes. Delegate of Germany, would you like to speak first or last?
I would like to go first.
All right, thank you, Delegate. And then we have 19 slots after the Delegate of Germany. Who would like to speak first? Please raise your hand. Okay. Delegate of Germany, could you please lower your hand? Thank you. All right. Now I will call upon the Delegate of New Zealand, the Delegate of Indonesia, the Delegate of Guinea, the Delegate of Afghanistan, Delegate of Somalia, Delegate of China, Switzerland, Mali, United Kingdom, South Sudan, India, Pakistan. How many slots do we have now? Okay, we have 6 more slots.
Excuse me?
Yes, Delegate, who?
But the delegate of Indonesia would like to abstain from this moderated caucus. I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, okay. We will remove the Delegate of Indonesia, and thus we have 7 more slots, I believe. I will call upon the Delegate of Italy, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, Denmark, Norway, Mozambique, last but not least, Nepal. All right, thank you. Now, for the first speaker on this motion, Germany, you now have the floor.
Thank you for the floor, Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates. The delegate of Germany believes that proper education will help or even bring an end to child marriage. A lot of children, specifically girls, get into child marriage due to the lack of education. Now, imagine if we give education to children. This will allow them to understand what they should do if they were put in a similar situation. This would also allow them to learn about hotlines and organizations they should reach out to, which could save them in a life-threatening situation or something commonly known as child marriage. Talking about parents, the Federal Republic of Germany believes that every parent wants good for their child, and most often, the parents that coerce their children to get married think that it's better for the child as they would be financially supported by the significant other. If we offered education to these parents and explained the long-term consequences, they would definitely rethink and be more wise in their decision. Thank you, and I yield the time.
Thank you, Delegate, for the well-timed speech. Next to speak is the Delegate of New Zealand. The floor is yours.
Honorable Chairman and distinguished delegates, thank you for the floor. New Zealand believes that education is one of, if not the most effective solution to end child marriage. Without education, no one would be aware of the issues brought forth by child marriage, whether it be physical or mental issues. In addition, education is also a more sustainable way to ensure a long-term, permanent end of child marriage compared to constant funding, which is usually less sustainable. In New Zealand, NGOs like Girls Not Brides and Shakti provide women empowerment and gender equal, culturally relevant education to help combat child marriage for both child marriage victims, parents of the victims, and other girls and even boys all around New Zealand. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Chile. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. If there is one solution to child marriage that is efficient and makes sense, it's definitely education. Guinea believes that keeping children in school delays marriages, and since marriages cause dropouts and low education, keeping these kids' educations high is very important. Not to mention, it can also potentially help these minors understand what is happening and why it's inappropriate. That way, they can help themselves escape being forced to get married to someone they might not even know. Thank you again, Chair and fellow delegates. I'd like to yield to Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Afghanistan. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. It has been stated that approximately 14 million girls across the world become child brides each year. All too often, they are pulled out of school, denied their right to an education, and have babies before their bodies are even ready. Education is a powerful path to gender equality, strengthening girls' skills, knowledge, and power to challenge gender norms. In addition, education is one of the biggest factors in preventing child marriage, as an educated girl is more likely to marry later, have fewer children, earn more money, invest in her children, and become a force for a change in society. Hence, the delegate of Afghanistan strongly believes that providing proper education is a crucial factor in battling the issues of child marriage. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Somalia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of Somalia believes that education is an important factor in reducing child marriage because education is one of the main keys for getting more knowledge as well as having an open mind and awareness regarding child marriage. Education can also help prepare future leaders or successors of the country, which will then help improve their economy. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of China. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of China believes that education is one of the most effective solutions to child marriage. Rising the chances of higher education and future employment are agendas that must be done in order to prevent child marriage because it affects parental figures, traditional leaders, and children themselves. It drives change in society. Therefore, China encouraged school establishment with co-educational systems in rural areas, and the system shall be sustained by incorporating new curriculums and study groups in order to build an adequate communication platform between genders. It tackles gender inequality by giving children gender heterogeneity experiences and interactions, then further strengthening their understanding and importance of gender equality within themselves. So this is a measure in order to tackle gender inequality and child marriage by education and school curriculum. And at the same time, this is expected to dispel doubt in girls' capability. And the cost effectiveness of the school will be supported by partnership by the UNICEF to create country and global coalitions with a shared agenda. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Switzerland. The floor is yours.
The delegate of Switzerland believes that raising awareness and educating citizens in both rural and urban areas is one of the biggest contributors in preventing child marriages. Educating the public about child marriages and its dangers publicizes the issue in different areas, especially in rural ones. This delegate believes that education is by far one of the most effective and possible solutions to solving the issue as a whole, for amplifying the voices of the children who suffered from child marriages in both rural and urban areas is one form of education that could be used to give a different perspective on those who haven't experienced it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Mali.
Honorable boards of days and fellow delegates, the delegate of Mali surely believe that education is the key to being well open-minded and not easily being lied to. Children with low education are easily fooled about early marriage. However, lack of education has made people do not have any awareness towards child rights. Data shows that 49.97% of the Malian population can't read and don't have continual access to education that leads to child marriage. Based on this cause, education is really important in order to tackle child marriage worldwide. Without education, there aren't any awareness regarding child marriage. Considering education as a solution, Mali would like to propose their solutions related to education, which is youth education training, in which we will build the multilateral cooperation in giving enough education for every child in the world. Thank you for the floor.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of the United Kingdom. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable delegates, the delegate of the United Kingdom firmly believes that education is the biggest and most relevant factor of child marriage. People are simply not aware of the negativities of child marriage. The United Kingdom has already contributed to forming an organization called the FMU, or the Forced Marriage Unit. On the previous unmoderated caucuses, it has been brought to the UK's attention that less economically developed countries have requested funding for education. So with this, the United Kingdom would like to hear other delegates' conditions and stances in order to formulate a solution that will be beneficial to both the UK and the referred country. Worldwide problems requires worldwide cooperation. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of South Sudan. The floor is yours.
Okay, like the delegate of Sudan said before, one of the main reasons of child marriage in Sudan is lack of education. So education makes a big role in child marriage, and education can also be a solution. From education, people can get jobs, and one of the reasons of child marriage is low economics. If people have jobs, that makes a huge impact on raising the economics. And from education, girls become more educated and has more awareness about child marriage. This helps the next generation to have education parents and wouldn't let their child marry as a minor. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of India. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Every citizen in India must remember that they are Indian and have every right in this country, said Sardar Vallabhbhai, unifier of India and first Deputy Prime Minister of India. The youth lead the future of India and the entire world, and without proper education, their potential is being wasted. Imagine what this world would look like if all children obtained good education. All delegates agree that education is essential to protecting the rights of children, not just in child marriage, but also all other things. Sadly, this is not as easy as said. India would like to stress the importance of less economically developed countries obtaining funding from more economically developed countries. No matter what race, religion, or culture, education is the right for all children to have. This is why we would like to emphasize again for delegates to further discuss funding and programs, as the future is led by those today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Pakistan. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Pakistan believes that education is an important, if not the most important step to eradicating child marriage. Education brings awareness to children on the problems and consequences of child marriage, as the previous delegate states before. Some parents send their child off for marriage, believing that it is the right choice and the best for the child. If education were to be implemented, parents will for sure change their mind. Education is the key for change, especially in rural areas. The funding of education and educational infrastructures with the help of government, of collaboration between government and organizations will serve fruitful to eradicating child marriage. Therefore, this delegate believes in the implementation and providing quality education for all children globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the Delegate of Italy. The floor is yours.
Honorable Board of Days and fellow delegates, in every problem, there's a solution. Recognizing the root causes of the problem and the problems in the previous actions, we must find a solution that is effective and can be implemented in every country. As we have discussed before, one of the main causes of child marriage is the lack of education. Italy believes that education can really help to reduce child marriage because of the awareness that the child will have and the understandings about the danger of child marriage that the children will get through education. Thus, the delegate of Italy would like to propose a solution to help reduce child marriage cases, which is TEAM, that stands for Tackling Education and Awareness Matters. Italy proposes the creation of TEAM to help children get a proper education and understandings about the danger of child marriage by providing vocational education and training, enhancing the number of seminars and workshops, offering protection, and also offering financial aid for families with lower income. The delegate of Italy is looking forward to work and create effective solutions with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the delegate of Ethiopia. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the recognition, honorable chairs and your delegates. The delegation of Ethiopia agree that education is one of the huge factors to child marriage. In Ethiopia, many elderly citizens are still acknowledge the child marriage as a tradition. But some of the young generations in Ethiopia become aware of the child marriage legality law and are determined to strive for educations instead, considering the fact that they have a huge plan for their life to live up to their dream of having a profession is a big step forward to ending child marriage, even though in Ethiopia the education is still outdated in terms of knowledge. If they achieve their dream and succeed, it will also motivate more citizens to follow the lead, and the country will slowly develop as well. Education will help the citizens of Ethiopia find a way to ensure or even improve the economic stability in each household. This will support their understanding of the need to end this child marriage.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the delegate of Bangladesh. The floor is yours.
Thank you, honorable chairs and fellow delegates. Being surrounded by child marriage and its culture growing up can doctrinize children to normalize it as they mature. We need to realize them regarding the dangers and its effect towards the act by empowering and building the child's mindset early. Therefore, the delegate of Bangladesh believes that education is a great solution towards the issue. It is a great way to raise awareness, but it must be noted that effectiveness and equity must be ensured. It is hoped that we can find a way together to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Next to speak is the delegate of Denmark.
Thank you for acknowledging my request to speak. Everybody, regardless of gender, should be given equal opportunities, as quoted by Rasmus Petersen, Denmark's Minister of Development Cooperation. Child marriage is a global crisis caused by many reasons, but one of the most famous and prioritized reason is the lack of education. Parents believe that their children, especially minor girls, need to be married off to a partner for their financial problems. UNICEF, along with UNFPA, has made remarkable change in providing education for young women in certain areas as one of the main strategies to prevent child marriage. Not only does UNICEF educate these girls, but also their parents to assist them in understanding girls' rights and why it mustn't be limited. Even in urban areas as big cities, education is still lacking for some children who cannot afford to pay school fees. Education helps these young women's future to lead them making wise career choices, without the solution of being married off. Denmark has already contributed in preparing schooling for foreigners by giving them easy access to our education system. The
delegate, your time has unfortunately been elapsed.
Okay, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Next to speak is the delegate of Norway. The floor is yours. Delegate of Norway.
Can you hear me? Check, mic check.
Yes, you are now audible. Where's yours?
Okay. Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, fellow delegates. Education plays a critical role in keeping children safe from child marriage. In fact, the longer a child stays in school, the less likely he or she is to be married before age 18 and have children during their teenage years. When children are confident in their abilities, arrive with the knowledge of their rights, and supported by peers of other empowered children, they are able to stand up and say no to injustices like child marriage, just like what we're doing during this MUN conference. Staying in school can also increase career paths for children. Schools can provide skills that are needed for jobs. Students can also learn about what they enjoy doing and what they are good at. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Malcolm X. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next to speak is a delegate of Mozambique. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair.
The delegates of Mozambique recollect Article 88 of Mozambique Constitution, entirely believing that education shall be the right and duty that can be obtained equally by all citizens. Mozambique believes that education become one of the key factors to solve the issue, which is child marriage. We can use proper education to raise awareness, provide knowledge about health and sexual reproduction. It raises wiseness, giving child provisions to deal with situations regarding child marriage. We want them to realize that they have the right to say no to child marriage, stand up against it. With educations, we can help them to pave a better way for their future. With education, we want to help them by provide the ability to determine their future with their own hands. Not only the child, but we need to change the traditional way parents think that points out child marriage to solve their financial problems. These delegates looking forward to advise and work with other countries to achieve the best solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Last but not least is the Delegate of Nepal. The floor is yours.
The delegate of thank you, Chair. The delegate of Nepal have said and still stand with the belief that lack of education is one of the main factors of high numbers of child marriage. With this in mind, Nepal believes that even distribution of education or education in general can be a solution to child marriage. There are lots of instances in Nepal where girls get involved with the practice of child marriage because they don't know about the consequences of child marriage to their development, reproductive health, and how child marriage can put them in the risk of young pregnancy. Education can not only bring awareness to the children, but this would also bring awareness to the public eye. It can also help children recognize and exercise their rights, while also making them not be easily manipulated by cultural beliefs, traditions, or other external factors that support the act of child marriage. Education can also be a form of empowerment to young girls to not be afraid to develop their skills and prove social norms that education is not for nothing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Delegate. With that, this motion has elapsed. Before we move on, I would like to ask, maybe for the other delegates to be aware as well, how many blocks are there? Can one representative from each block please raise their hand? One. Okay, so there are currently three blocks or just two? All right, so there are two blocks currently. Is that correct? Okay. I will now give a few announcements on the working paper. So for your working paper, the working paper is due tomorrow before the third committee session starts. So we will close the submission on 3:15 a.m. GMT +7. There will be no minimum or maximum signatories, no sponsors are required, but we expect the working paper to be submitted through our emails before 9:15. So 9:15, okay? Yes. We expect the working paper. You can send in whichever documents that you want, but if you have any Google Docs, please do invite all of our emails to your Google Docs. And Chair Angela has also sent our emails and other details and further announcement in the chat box as well. So you can take note of that. And for now, the chairs highly encourage upon an unmoderated caucus, you guys can start working on your respective working papers. Now, Chair Angela, can you please share the screen? Yes, thank you. Now, the chair is now open for any points or motions. If you have any points or motions, please raise your hand. The delegate of the United Kingdom.
The delegate of the United Kingdom would like to propose an open unmoderated caucus for the time of, how much time is applicable?
Like we only have 15 minutes left. So
for the duration of 10 minutes.
Okay, so an unmod for 10 minutes. Chair Angela, can you share the screen? All right, thank you. For 10 minutes. Yes. Delegate of Pakistan.
Sorry, Chair, it is the same as the delegate of UK.
Sorry, Delegate?
Sorry, Chair, my motion is the same as and previously mentioned by the Republic of UK.
No worries, thank you. Yes, you can extend to 15 minutes if you want. But if you are good with 10, then it's all right as well. Pakistan? All right.
The chair.
Yes, delegate.
The delegate of the United Kingdom would like to change the duration of the unmoderated caucus from 10 minutes to 15 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Delegate of, yes. Delegate of United Kingdom, 15. All right, thank you, delegate. That is in order. Delegate of the United States.
Delegate of the United States would like to raise a consultation of the whole. How many minutes could it be applicable, Chair?
We only have about like 15 minutes left.
Okay, then 15 minutes total time.
All right. So that is in order. Now we have an unmoderated caucus and we have one consultation of the whole, but there's no consultation of the whole feature in the MUN coordinated. So we will just use the unmoderated caucus. All right, so we will now vote upon the most disruptive motions proposed by the delegate of the United Kingdom to have an unmoderated caucus for 15 minutes. For those of you in favor, please raise your hand. I will wait for a few more seconds. Please remember that that a total of 19 votes of yeses. All right, it is now 20. So with 20 votes of yeses, this motion passes. Your 15 minutes unmoderated caucus starts now. All right, the unmoderated caucus is now elapsed. We will wait for the other delegates to rejoin to the main room. All right, I believe everyone is here. Yes, okay. Due to the time constraint, I'm afraid that is all that we have for today. But before that, the chair will only accept one motion only, that is to suspend the debate. Any points or motions? Yes, delegate of. I would like to hear from the delegate of Pakistan.
This delegate would like to propose a motion to suspend the debate.
All right, thank you, delegate. Under the chair's discretion, this motion passes. Yay! So that ends our committee sessions for today. That ends our MUN for the day, I guess. But before that, the chairs have a few evaluations from today. General feedback. Who wants to go first? I guess Crystal or Angela. Crystal.
You can go first, Sharon.
All right. So for today, I see that you guys are very, very active, which I'm so happy about that. But in terms of your substance, you guys keep going in circles and keep on saying the same things, even seconding on other delegates repeatedly, which causes the discussion to be stagnant. So perhaps tomorrow you guys can further elaborate on your arguments. You guys have great ideas and great arguments. However, all of that is just too broad. So for example, if you want to create a safe environment for a child, and how can we do that? How can the UNICEF facilitate the member states to do that or encourage member states to do that? So that is what we are looking for tomorrow. The detailed mechanisms and also please elaborate more on your arguments. I guess that is all from me. Crystal?
I think Sharon already covered the most of it. I'm really glad to see all the active delegates here, but maybe I would like to point out on, again, the substance, and maybe when you're picking motions, don't pick motions that have already been discussed, or a motion that is very broad that you guys will keep discussing in circles. The chairs feel that one of the past motions that we discussed in this committee session was actually like very, very redundant. So everybody was saying the same thing. So the debate wasn't going into the direction that we wanted to. Again, emphasizing tomorrow, maybe you can elaborate on your discussions, and please remember the mandate of UNICEF itself. I haven't seen any detailed mechanisms for funding as well, considering that the mandate of UNICEF itself is the emergency children's funding, right? So maybe you guys can research that again when you are preparing for tomorrow's committee session too. So I think that's it, right? Angela doesn't have any addition. Yeah, Sharon.
All right, thank you, Crystal, for that. Yes, I guess that ends our committee session for today. Don't forget that we will be expecting the draft resolution before the third committee session at 9:15 a.m. That is all from us. Maybe the committee would like to say a few words.
Apologies, Chair. Did you say that the draft resolution has to be submitted tomorrow before the third committee session? Or is
Yes.
it the working paper?
Yes, that is before the third committee session, that is the working paper. However, the draft resolution, we will be expecting that before the fourth committee session. So for now, you guys can either focus on your working papers first.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for the confirmation.
Yes, thank you, Delegate. Any other questions?
Chair, earlier there was a mention that there's a maximum of 3 sponsors in a block. Is it okay if there's less than 3 sponsors?
Yes, that is okay. So the one that I put, it's actually the maximum number of sponsors. So if you only want to have like 1 sponsors, that would be all right as well, because 3 is the maximum.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yes, no problem. Any other questions? Nope. Going once, going twice. I guess there's no more questions. Committee, would you like to have a few words or remarks or announcement, perhaps?
I think we can suspend the committee session now. Is that right, committee?
I'm gonna take a picture first because documentation. Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Are you guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
Closing prayer. So I'm gonna pray again. And I'm gonna lead. I hope everyone prays in their religion. I'm gonna lead us in Christian. Dear God, thank you for blessing us from morning until now. Thank you for giving us strength. Thank you for giving us great knowledge that we can finish the first day of our MUN, God. Tomorrow we're going to have another day. Please bless the kids so that they can make their working paper and their draft resolution well tomorrow. And bless them so that they can also have great performance tomorrow, God. Thank you, God. Amen. Okay. Thank you all. And you may leave the Zoom now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, everyone.